My fellow Americans, greetings and salutations, brothers and sisters, and welcome to the festivities. It's a Saturday night right now, but you might not see this until Sunday. So this is sort of improvisational as we begin our weekend evening festivities, featuring authentic oddball dialogue, poetry, and general humorous readings, as it were. So, without any further ado, I shall now begin. I thought perhaps that this evening we would indulge in some vintage, authentic oddball dialogue. Originally, this material was written for Borders Books and Music presentation in the Cafe in 1995 in Novi, Michigan. So as I reach for my dusty parchment, we will soon begin. Pardon me. Now then, we have here the vintage book that it was written in, circa 1973 gun record from the fatherland, as it were. Perhaps my own father's gun record, but that's beside the point. So, now then, proofreading in proper tune. A kindly warning is presented at this particular time, and buffalo chips and peyote were soon at hand in this particular case. For Dillard the buffalo came down from the mountain, and he hadn't anything in his possession. He came down with his sticks and his packs on his back, and he didn't know what to do with the top. King Thaddeus came down from the mountain with Sir Timothy's mud iron, and he said, "Pearson's wrath, come overloaded, and ever yet lay low with embedded manure. One must be pressed in vinegar with alkaline, hit in the face with Limburger cheese. For Aladdin's lamp must come forth down sideways, for the four corners of Kabul are at hand. For the onion sling, the mock physician's revival, and the towers of Babylon which came through Hool and Kabul, I might add. One must rise up Dingleside to one's upsight, and Mulligan's fist is then presented. The tiller's burl and pillar is soon at hand in this particular case. And lo the four winds. We must think in threes and submit to a lost passage. For the RPL is presented with dry bones. The snuff box, the pipe, and John Barleycorn is soon at hand in this particular case. And one's face down in confinolide escapades are quickly presented thereafter. Now then, the constable and the unicycle are soon presented, and Dr. Bogenbroom comes forth with the hickory switch. The henchman's ball is soon at hand, and the foundation of one's home. Sea shanties, jigs, and reels are soon presented in this particular case. 3 sheets to the wind, and face down in my portage was I at that particular point. The chimney sweeps were soon at hand, and the wooden teeth was properly placed. Enough of the tomfoolery, and back to business. Now then, come down, negatory balloon, and never mind the innocence of the middleman. For Wilhelm Tell was in full tune and soon at hand, and one must always come from within in this particular case where the pan dance and the headless coach is soon at hand. Oh, the world is filled with little brown beans, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Now then, the Young Readers Club and the human reduction of one's being lieth at fault, for I had found one's coat of arms in the garbage, and Brian Simpkins once turned his shoe sideways, lifting an air conditioner into the garage. For it is the hot mustard and the flames from within that can be rendered only happenstance, akin to being kicked in the ribs by a mule, perhaps. And the escapades involving Colonel Wilhelm Klink were soon at hand in this particular case. Now then, the Nottingham ale was soon consumed. For bring us in good ale, says I, as we tripped on Spanish peanuts down the corridor. Ool teal kabool, why don't you come on down to the Puel? For the face on photos from the 16th and 19th centuries were soon presented. Pilgrim shoes were presented with the cowlick in one's hair, and Hoffin mist soon filled the air. For the battle axe came forward, only improvisation, of course. Some of these things I don't remember writing. Let's see here. Blow ye winds on St. Stephen's Day, as we went forth with the pirate ship and the sixpenny money, marching five in a line, playing the fife in the mire. For it is the English barrister's wig that is soon discovered in this particular case. For there's no time for dilly-dally, and I had tripped down the stairs with my Apple Jacks, my malt vinegar, and my Limburger cheese. And I sat down Waverly and Waferville, in case I haven't mentioned that yet. Now then, Tarman's cross currents are soon presented in this particular case. For if I don't come down, Neptune will come up, and the sun god will burn me back to the ground. One must be in full consistence with Smith Brothers cough drops, and shutters and boards were then presented with the powers of tradition. The shrimp was in the wrong phone bartman, and the sash was never opened in full tune and at the proper time frame. Thrusted out of bed was I by the powers of tradition, like a living human robot in the world of repetition. The fox made a hole, the peddler and the cobbler soon came forward in this particular case, and jolly good ale was then presented. For I must lay down on cobblestones in this particular case, with the lamplighter proceedings, the wilted stilts and the broken stilts, I might add. One's bewilderment was soon at hand. His Royal Highness soon came forward in full tune and in full chorus, with the steed and the fife. A German edition of Wilhelm Tell was retrieved from the local rubbish can, and the pan dance and the headless coach simply could not compete at that particular point, you see. The pilfered harvest was always presented thereafter, on All Hallows Eve in particular. A minstrel show was presented with woodworms, and by all means, Piccadilly Circus didn't stand a chance in this particular case, and neither did Mulligan Stones. Now then, Frost and Oranges were then laid wide open, I might add. The Fog on the Tyne was in full tune, and one must be banished in that particular case to the cellars of Smithsonian and Babylonian. We won't tolerate anything like that. I must talk to myself in the third person, says I. Bound over in the water closet with the wine and good ale, with Constable Grimpus knocking on the castle door. The high streets of London were shamefully out of tune with Piccadilly Circus and the Squire of Montfortman. One's knickers were tied in a knot at that particular point at the upper windows of the alehouse, I might add. The tin whistle was promptly played with no mercy, and we came forth down sideways, cried the four-legged farm-fed Caffordali. Give me deliverance from my unilateral upsight and Messinacide balloon. Henceforth my farina, and cast me down to the river until the great Ute Foot Stoot Maloot takes place. And my Ralston is covered in full constapson with Sir Newton's raisin duster and Fang Tootle Rymony. The banshee and the ghosts soon came forward as the dawn kissed the heather. Bedlam was opened, the potato famine was promptly registered and recognized. The kilt and the caber was soon brought forward. Nose putty was put on the hangman, and John Barleycorn was consumed at once. Now then, President McKinley once said, there is a permanent stain featured on the collar of Blue Sergeant Smith. King Vitamin soon was presented in such an oil painting sort of way. One's pensile was discovered, there lieth beneath the rotten barrister's desk, or the rotten desk of the barrister, I should say. One must be correct at all times and in full tune. Now then, the Shawnee house was soon presented with the fife and the porridge that was neglected because the milkman promptly left it outside without any notice, and the sour milk cart was soon at hand. One must make a note of that, you see. One stepped in cow dung whilst wearing pilgrim shoes as they entered the ramshackled shed, which was neither here nor there, but only in the middle. One must be had up for loitering in this particular case. At once, I might add, and warn my dad. And Ming the Merciless, if only I had quotes from Ming the Merciless, who might have been 4 sheets to the wind in this particular case, with Sir Nicol and his Cornishmen. I must reach below for a brief second or two, and I shall rise back up. I see a prompting to begin a portion of this particular episode with various passages from the book Let the Title Be Written, and subtitled Surely You Must Understand. These particular entries were written in the month of May 1998. My attempts at writing a book, one might say, the observations of life with situations happening at that point in time. Very ramshackled, but nevertheless possibly humorous to you. I shall now begin. I'm flushed with haste, and I must submit to the undefined at once. The undefined holds too much of nothing. At random, I went overboard in Farmington Hills, and I discovered hidden shops, including an Irish shop in the Village Mall. I also wrestled on the phone, put in laundry, and at one point ended up with caramel on my hand from a doorknob. I wonder what that was all about. I can't recall. Oh yes, and I cut grass and encountered fluorescent. I can't even read the rest. Oh darn. This evening I stand in haste as I muster through my supper routines. I escaped to Ann Arbor for a vinyl checkover in the record stores. 'Twas quite an eventful situation. And frantic calls on jobs, then an escape. I guess I was looking for some sort of employment at the time. And I returned from a pleasant but hectic day and sat up organizing the early stages of taping overhaul and limited relaxation. As we improv this evening, at great length, I realize. Always an experimentation, however. The day of previous routine is at hand in this particular case, on the 6th of May of 1998. An episode of Heat and Swagger, a quick trip to the market, an early supper, and a haste to relax. An involved day, says I. My noodles are at hand, and I was worried to the brim about something, and I was, some of this I can't read. It looks like coffee stains or something, perhaps ale. Everything all at once until about 4 o'clock p.m. And apparently that has continued elsewhere. I think of a subtitle and realize the anxiety of sorts involving such activities. So much to write, but a fear of immersement for tonight. Always too much lately. Too much of the undefined, and it can be scary. Maybe I should have just given, there we go again with that blotch of some sort, that coffee stain it looks like. Only a poet, of course, would have coffee stains on his parchments. I grant a day off to buy ugly work pants out of me own pocket. I fought with anxiety and routines, and it's hot as Hades outside as I rush towards my ease. Now everything in order must be in full tune until I stare at a bird dropping on the front of my trailer. And suddenly Earl popped up to converse. That must have been a neighbor. I can't recall an Earl. I was 3 minutes late to work, and several folks wanted to know where Confenolide was kept today, in aisle 9. And I wondered if I should go home at once and stick a broom up into the shutters. And I realized I didn't need to. Well, back to another anxiety-laden routine. The day was interesting, but I'm still too numb to notice, and I could go on, but at that point I was too lazy to write for some reason. Now then. Well, I thought of more, but it escaped me. My thoughts race, I get confused, I feel quite insane these days. And I go to work on autopilot from time to time because it's not my work, it's someone else's. And I become an actor with low pay at the expense of my mental health. And surviving tension again, picking up my check at my last job. Now, mind you, this was May of 1998, many moons ago. And we suffered together through retail acting all day. I must have worked in a store and returned home to go through various autographs by accident, autographs of some sort. I got inspired but also melancholy in that particular case. I must slumber and return to my disciplines of working out of my elements. I may not make a peanut butter sandwich tonight for my lunch. However, I must be intimidated by my manager and some customers because I look medieval. Evidently. A day of length at Wake, the grocery store suffering and confirmation of safe plane landing, and the grand organization before the grand time off was at hand at that particular point with ale, because it had to be that way. I will make a tape for an individual, I forgot, what's that name? Can't read it. Anyway, I remembered today that I was complimented on my job last week. It almost seems like I should have been scolded instead. It has been normal to face criticism. I began supplement therapy today for anxiety. Didn't notice anything yet. I lost my place, you'll beg of my pardon. Presently I am undefined, but okay. I don't want to trim my bushes because they're really not my bushes. I'm tired of routines, but see no escape. Unless I let things go amiss, and I won't. And I hope my quagmire isn't sinking on me from within. Now then, I think we've encountered the ending of this evening's festivities. A bit lengthy, but I hope you enjoyed it. This is sort of an experiment, as I mentioned. And we will present these bits periodically, either late Saturday nights or perhaps on Sundays. So I thank you for your tolerance this evening, and I hope you have enjoyed the festivities. And we will rehearse together, and we will continue the authentic oddball dialogue and humorous readings. My brothers and sisters, I bid you good night until we meet again.